Okay. Welcome, Wapplers, to our monthly Meetup September 2022. Today, we are honored with the presence of Mr. Brian English, a.k.a. Hyperbytes on the forum. Brian has been involved with Wappler before Wappler, way back in the DMX zone days. He is known for his wonderful videos and skills with databases. I would like to introduce Mr. Brian English.
Hi, everyone. Okay, what I would like to do today is go through a couple of things. Firstly, I'd just like to tell you what's happening with the videos, sort of my rationale behind them. And I'm very open to suggestions from people as to ways that we can improve this. It's first thing to understand is these are primarily aimed at somebody who's new to Wappler. So we're talking about people who may not have any particular web development skills at all, or they may have come from no-code platforms like Bubble. So what I wanted to do is make the course a quick start for somebody. So if they arrive at Wappler really not knowing much about web development at all, and they wanted to try and check the product out properly within the 14-day trial that they have now, that they could try and make some progress and get a real feel about what the power is of the product. So that's a rationale behind it. Sometimes a little bit rough on the edges. I apologize for that, but I've gone down a different line to others that have done. I mean, Ben's videos, for instance, are very, very polished, very, very professional. I have a lot of hours of video to produce, and I'm sure that everybody appreciates that to do a polished video, there's an awful lot of post-production required, and I really don't have the time to do that. So I literally record the session as I'm going through it, I tag an intro, I tag an outro onto it, and publish it as is, unless I've gone wrong somewhere and I have to edit out the errors. So they are a bit rough on the edges, but when we're looking at potentially being, I don't know, 50 hours plus for this course, I really just don't have the time to do lots and lots of post-production on that as well, and do my day job and have a life. So that's where we are at the moment with the course. I would hope that we'll have it finished within 4 to 6 weeks, and then people will be able to see all of the functionality that we have within Wappler. Anybody got any questions or comments? I'm very happy, folks. If you've got a question, I would rather you asked it while I was talking rather than forget it later and then think afterwards, I should have asked that. I wanted to ask that. So I have no problems at all with interruptions. If nobody's got any questions, I will go on to the presentation that I was prepared for you regarding, it's all about subtables and multi-references, etc. So I get the impression a lot of people haven't really got the head around what they are all about and how powerful they are and how useful they are. So has anybody got anything they would like to ask before I move on? Everybody okay?
You're breathlessly awaiting your demonstration.
Right. They always say don't start a presentation with a negative. I'm just going to throw in a little one here. I updated the Wappler 5.0.4 last night. It did not go well. I've done a clean install this morning. It's still not very well. There are certain bits of functionality within Wappler that I'm having problems with, which I just haven't been able to resolve. I've spoken with Theodore this morning. He hasn't been able to resolve it, but fingers crossed that will not affect what we're doing today. There are certain things that I can't do, but they're not necessity for today's session. So what I would like to do is lead you through something similar to the video that I put out earlier regarding the, say, relations, data joins, data tables, etc. So I'm just going to share screen first. Hopefully you can all now see that screen. Everybody see okay?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay. What I want to do quickly is just to show you where I'm going, and then I'm going to explain how I got there. And really, it's all about this action here and what it does. But before I do that, I'm just going to tell you why it came about. I don't know whether any of you have watched the introduction section of the videos that I put together, but basically it's a community website that I'm putting together. And these are the basic functions that I want to add into that community website. So we have a business index, local history, local attractions, jobs wanted, for sale, local events, and then eventually I'm going to do a full e-commerce unit for them to be able to run their own online shops. Now, I've already gone through creation of roles with the usual insert a role, add a role, delete a role, and then I've done that with SEO. And that, again, that has been the insert, the delete, the update. And when I looked at this screen, it really was a bit daunting. I didn't know which would happen to me first. I would lose the will to live, having basically repeated that particular sequence again 6 more times, or whether the viewer would turn off simply because they had seen the same thing over and over again. So it made me think about data structures and how we can try and improve those data structures. When I looked at the business index, what I thought was, well, that's basically, it's a parent table with business information. It's subtables relating to images of that business. There will be perhaps a subtable with comments if we're going to allow people to feedback about businesses. Then I looked at local history, and again, it's exactly the same. We've got details of the historic event. We may have some associated images. We may have some comments. And so when I realized that each one of those first 6 most certainly followed a constant data structure. Even the cottage industries, if we look at it in that way, we have a business which has products, which will be equivalent of a subtable of comments perhaps, and we'll have images. So really it's a template that fits virtually every standard web page that you would be producing. So from that point, I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a standard structure for each of those elements. And then I'm just going to flag them to say, this element refers to a business index, this element refers to a local history, etc. And what we do is we have a query and a data structure that produces this basically. Okay, so we run that data query that we had before, and you'll see here now we have the parent information. I've just kept it simple. This is dummy data. My first page description, etc. And then we have a couple of links here, a creator ID and a last editor ID, spelt wrongly, as you see. And those are actually linked back to the user table. Then we have an images subtable. And we have a comment subtable. Each of those subtables there also have a link back to the users table. So each time we're linking it back to the users table. And then we have comments, which again link back to the users table. And then finally, we have the ability to leave a reaction. Hate to say the word Facebook style, a like, an angry, or this type of thing. And that is actually a multi-relation, because we need to be able to view that to say how many likes or whatever a particular post has, but also how many likes, etc., has the individual used, so we can see whether a lot of people are feeding back. Lots of feedback, and some are giving very little.
Is it possible to see the actual query in Wappler?
So yeah, I'm going to now open that up. I think I'm going to have to stop the share, switch screen, and then start the share again, which is going to be big. There we are, we're back. So yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to work through this session will be to show you what the query will be like. But I'll just run through quickly what we have. There's your query. And then within that query, we have 2 inner joins.
Okay.
For the creator table and the editor table. Then we have our images. We have our image information. And again, from the creator of that image, we have another link back to our users table. Within our comments, again, we have the user who's left a comment. linking back to the user table again so that we can see who's left our comment. And then lastly, we have the reaction section. So we see who has left the reaction that they've left, and their user ID, which is again linked back to that user table. So what
at the moment, we're looking at a subtable, right?
We're looking at it at this exact moment. You're looking at a multi-reference inside a subtable.
Okay, got it.
So it's pretty complicated structure.
But
so at each level, we have joins to be able to look at who's done that particular action, because in a CMS environment, it's really important to be able to see who's uploaded information. So we can see from this, we have a creator ID and a last editor, so we can see who created that particular piece of information. We can see who last edited that. And we can link both of them back to our original users table. Then we're doing the same with the images. The images creator ID, so we know who's uploaded the image. And that really isn't in a full CMS environment important to know who's uploaded those images, because you could have something that's, subject of copyright or offensive or pornographic, whatever, and you need to know if anybody's abusing that privilege. So that's really important. And similarly, as I say, with the comments, didn't mean to do that. We have exactly the same thing. We know who's made the comment. We link it back to that users table. And then we have, say, finally, our reactions, and we see who the reactions are. So I'll go back to that previous query that I showed you before. I'm just going to stop that share for a second. Pop that back up, share that again. You can see now the structures, how that query relates to, it's taken that initial information, and then it's got its creator and editor ID. It's pulled in the first name and last name of the creator and the editor. We have our images, we have our comments, and then finally we have our actions. So quick head count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. About 12 tables all linked up there in total to be able to push that structure. But as each of these are objects in themselves, we use a repeat on them. So what we can do is we can actually show the initial parent table, and then we can show these sections within a repeat or a bootstrap table in itself or whatever. So we can display that, and we only ever need this one data query to pull that information back through. So I'm just going to pop back into Wappler now. Back to our share. Just let Tom in while I'm there. Okay, so we've seen what the data structure is in terms of how the query works. So we now need to look at how the table is. So our table is, we start with our page content. As we work down, we have a subtable of images, a subtable of comments, and then we have finally a multi-reference within those comments. What I would like to do is just to quickly show you how to build that table from scratch, and then we build that query from scratch, and then we can have a look at how to pull that all together. And I think my webcam's just gone off. What's happened there? Give me 1 second.
I would like to take this moment to do a Wappler commercial. Unleash your creativity. Wappler is the low-code software that allows you to visually build responsive websites, mobile and desktop apps with no vendor lock-ins and complete hosting freedom.
Can you actually hear me, or have I gone totally?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
Got you. Yeah, I've actually lost mouse, keyboard, and
all right. What
webcam momentarily. Give me 1 moment.
Take your time. Ben says you've never looked better.
It's a big improvement.
Thanks for that, Ben. Love you too. Yay. Sorry about
Welcome
that,
back.
guys. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I'm just going to drag this share bar out of the way. That's it. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to build that table structure now. I'm going to just duplicate what we've got here just to show you how you would do that. So pop up in the tables. I'm going to create a new table, and I'm just going to call that page content demo. Okay, no, I've got no keyboard still. 2 seconds. It's better. Okay, so we've created our basic table. Right, sorry, we're back again. Well, having done that little foray under the desk, I've got cables everywhere. So yeah, we start with our parent table. I like to just clarify what this ID applies to, because we're going to end up with a lot of IDs here. Now, I'm not going to create the full tables. That'll be really boring, but I'm just going to give that a title, which is going to be our string, and we're going to have our description, which we would tend to use a text for, so that they can use a lot more information in that. Now we'll add our first subtable. So we go down to new subtable. I'm going to call that images. Click on the advanced tab, because that shows you extra information that's required. And you'll see now that it tells you that we've got our images, has its own ID now, and it's linked back to our page content demo ID, which is here. We can rename that ID as well. So we're not actually creating any relations or joins as such. What we're actually doing is we're creating a subtable. And the beauty of that is that we only ever have one parent, albeit we can have a lot of subtables with multiple images. So we can have one page, 100 images if you wanted, and they will all fit within a repeat within here. We can now do the next same again. We can create a subtable, and we can go call that comments, let's say. And again, I'll just, sorry, our comment ID. Again, it's made the links for us, so we don't need to do anything. All I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to add the comment itself. So I should have added up here our image link. And that's the basic structure. But of course, we had these extra fields we were going to add in to our main page, and that is our creator ID and our editor ID. Don't worry that the cursor is down here at the bottom. That would resolve itself when you actually do the commit. Sorry. So our creator ID obviously would be a integer, and our editor ID would also be an integer. So we're going to use that to link back to our user table, which we have up here. Our images, again, we're going to have the creator ID on there. Anybody got any questions, please just chirp in. I tend to disappear off into my own little world when I do this. And we also need here to have our person who has commented. We'll have a commenter ID. So up this stage, and we've created our parent table. We've created 2 subtables, each with links that we can use to link it back to our user table. If you look, we haven't actually defined a single link in there. Wappler has created all of those links automatically for us as we've gone along.
I have 2 questions, if I could.
Yeah, sure.
First off, the data structure you showed us before had inner joins. What I see here are subtables. Is
No,
Wappler creating the inner joins?
Yeah, no, the query had inner joins in, but
The
the
query.
tables, yeah, because what I'll do is we'll use where we have a creator ID and our editor ID. Within the query, we will create inner joins there. So the data structure deals with the content, the images, the comments, and I'm just going to add the reactions. Then we use those inner joins from these ID fields to our user table to externally pull those users in as well to make that whole thing into just one big complicated query.
You explained that very well. Thank you. The second question is, I know you're a big user of Navicat. When you're using a structure like this as Wappler is creating, is that something that you can use Navicat with?
To be honest, I don't know, because I've only ever used the internal Wappler page builder now for several months.
Mm-hmm.
Or the database table builder. I've virtually abandoned Navicat. The only place that I've occasionally, I'm still having a bit of a problem with video here. Yeah, the only place where I occasionally drop out of Wappler now is primarily when I'm using SQLite, which I tend to use all the time in the local environment. There is a SQLite DB browser application that you can download free just to be able to have a look at the tables. But I'll be honest, Mark, I can't give you a definitive answer on that one.
That's fine. That's fine. Please continue.
Okay.
Doing great.
So our last bit is within our comments, we want to be able to have people leaving reactions. And to say we could just create that as another subtable, but I thought, why not make this a multi-reference? Now, a multi-reference table is basically a bi-directional subtable in terms of, at the moment, the subtables we create are linked directly to the single parent table of that thing. So the image is linked to that single page content demo record. However, if we use a multi-reference, we can actually reference it to 2 different data tables at the same time. What effectively the multi-reference does is it creates a new table which sits in between the 2 main ones. And all it is a table of pointers. So it will say user 26 made comment number 32. User 23 created comment 32. And by using those, it will internally create those links that you need, those joins, and produce that bi-directional link for you. And I thought that was more appropriate for a reaction, shall we say, because say we want to know which reactions are being allocated to which comment, but we also need to know, or would probably like to know, which users have issued which reactions to comments in general. So what we can do there is we're actually now going to go into multi-reference. And we're going to drop down. We'll give that, we'll call that reactions, didn't I? Just to mention there, if you saw what happens, big no-no in Wappler, it causes so many problems. Never try and put a space in a table name. Never try and put a space in a field name. Never put a space in a query subdirectory or query name, or it will break. It's just a big no-no. It's not allowed. And I raise that because I actually had somebody I've been doing some, shall we say, tutoring work with, who had exactly that problem yesterday. He couldn't find out what was happening with his query that wasn't working. It was because he'd used a space in a folder name within a data query. So, okay, we've seen what's happened here anyway. We've got our reactions table. It has realized that it is effectively a subtable to the comment, but we also can create a new reference in there. And what we're going to do is create that reference to, so I've got to give that name first. We now can say, right, well, we want to reference that back to that user table based on that user ID. So when that comment comes in and pulls that information about the comments, again, it will be able to see who the user was of that comment. I think that's about everything that we wanted to build on that. So really all it comes to do is to hit the apply. Okay, and there is your table created. So we've got exactly as we have in our page content table, but just a little bit less in there. Our page content demo, and then down we go, our images. We have our subtable of comments and reactions. So what I'd like to do now is just quickly build that query that we had. And this is actually really, really easy. Just to say at this stage, I've been doing database work now for 40 years. I've been using SQL for probably about 34 of those. My background is database management as opposed to web design. Anybody who's seen my videos can say I'm not a good designer. The queries that you can produce with a few clicks in Wappler would have taken me certainly hours, maybe days to perfect if I was hand coding those queries. So the power that you actually have at your hands is absolutely astonishing. So how do we create the query? Well, we're going to go into our database action and we're going to create a query. In our query builder, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for that parent table, page content demo in this case. And we can simply add our relevant fields. We have our create and editor IDs, so we're going to link them now. This is where the joins come in, Mark. We create a join to the users table. So the user ID within that users table joins to the creator ID in that table. And these, I would suggest you always alias them, or you can get clashes in names. So we'll call this page creator. So you say recommendation, always alias them. And now we can just add the first name and the last name of the person who created the page into that data query now. Going to do exactly the same with our editor ID. So again, we're going to add our user table in again. Just going to remove all of those, and we're going to call this editor ID. And we're going to again create that join. And in this case, we're going to be creating it to that editor ID, which is that one. So we've now got our two inner joins. Can I say at that point, I'm using inner joins because the intention is that there will always be a user in these fields. If you're in an environment where it may well be that user ID will be blank, then you would use a left join so that you would still pull that record, because if in any of these queries, if the ID didn't match somebody in the users table, then that particular join would not work and it would break the query. So I'm using inner joins. The safe one is the user left join. If you're not 100% certain, there will always be a join made. So we've got our creator, we've got our editor IDs. Now again, we see we've got a first name, last name, and a first name, last name. If we run that query, what you would actually find is that those two fields would be merged because they are an identical name. So what we need to do is just alias one of them. So I'm just going to prefix it with a C. If anybody's getting lost off, please ask. I don't want anybody sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is over my head. I really have no idea what's going on. So we've aliased them. So now that query will give us the demo, the title, the description. It will give us the name of the creator, and it will give us the name of the editor. Now we add the images repeat in. Now at that point, actually I'll add the comments in as well for the moment. What we do is we actually click now on that images, and you'll see that we actually get a second query builder screen opens up, in which has the image link and the creator ID. We're going to do exactly the same again. We're going to link that back to the user. This is image user, let's call it. I have a particular version using uppercase and anything to do with databases. That's just me. I have some strange quirks, I'm afraid, folks. So I'm creating that join. We want to know the image link. That would be your link directly to the image that you would call to use as the dynamic source of your image element within your page. And again, we can add the image first name and last name in there. Again, no conditions needed. Wappler will look after everything there. Going to do the same with the comments. So we open the comments. Yes, again, we're going to create our link to our comment user. Whoops. Our user ID links to our commenter ID. And then the very last is that we also, remember, we have our reaction. So I'm going to add the comment. I'm going to add the first name and last name of the person that made the comment. And then I'm going to add that reactions multi-link. Yeah, you guessed it. We now click on that again, and we get yet another query builder screen. And then we're going to link the user again to our table, and we're going to alias that. I'm going to leave that. I can't be bothered to change that. We all know what's going on there. That's our reaction user. We can OK that, and then we can add in our. I've actually forgotten to add the comment field by the looks of it into there. There should be a comment text field. That's not critical at this stage. So let's just now close all of those and pop back in that table, because that's interesting. There is definitely a comment there. Oh, sorry, we haven't got the reaction. Just completely forgot to put that field in. Just quickly add that. Go back in that query builder. We can go into our comments, then we go into our demo, and then lastly, we add that reaction. So that is how to build that query. So I'm just going to talk you through it once more. We've started with the parent table. We've created two inner joins from the creator and the editor IDs. We've added our subtables here. We have clicked on our subtables. We have created another join. We've added our data from there. We've gone again into this subtable. We've created our join. We've added our comment. We've added our names. And then, because the reactions is effectively a subtable, albeit it's a multi-referenced subtable of the comment, we've then created also our first name, last name, and reactions of that comment. And that, folks, is the query. Now, to actually run that query, I would then have to add a load of data in manually or write some stuff. So I'm not actually going to use that query we've just written. You'll just have to accept that this one here, one I prepared earlier, is exactly the same query. We've got our details of our user. we've got our images, we've got our comments, and then within our comments, we have our reactions. And if we run that query builder, I'm going to have to just swap screens here, but give me a moment. I'm just going to run that. Sorry, run that in the browser. I'm going to reshare that with you. And there you are now. You perhaps better understand that structure and how it's built. There's our first query here, down to creator and editor IDs. We've got our first name and last name. And this one I've prefixed the editor with E rather than the one I've just demoed was the creator was prefixed with a C. We have our image repeat with our detail of the image. And again, from the users table, we pulled our names through. We've done the same with our comments, hello world. In this case, this reaction has had this comment has had two reactions, a like from Brian English and an angry from Jimmy Smith. And thank goodness, I think that's actually all worked the way I was hoping that it would. Back to our share on the screen. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show you today, folks. What I had hoped to do is to be able to just quickly throw together a page where each of those repeats were in a bootstrap table, just so you could see how that data cascades rather than just seeing it within a browser screen. But unfortunately, the problem I'm having with Wappler latest version, which has obviously gone badly wrong on install, I can't do that particular part of this presentation. Has anybody got any questions?
Wow. The database to me seems very complex, but very powerful. Do you, I'll start off the questions with, have you noticed any delay or any problems in production? Have we gotten that far? Does it work just as fast?
It is the subqueries, the way that have been optimized by the Wappler team, etc. It is far quicker to do it that way than to use a number of separate smaller queries. They're very well optimized and they're pretty well instant. They really are excellent. We should be talking about, in most cases, you know, you're talking milliseconds rather than seconds. I know that I think there was a recent post that Fred put out that he was having some issues with query taking 4 seconds. I've never known any database query take 4 seconds, so that was probably something. It's probably something structural behind there. But because these are effectively, we design one query, but as I say, we have 3 different query screens. They are actually all queries in themselves. So what we have is 3 small queries which are nested, which is why the action runs so quickly. But I think probably the longest outstanding tutorial request on the Wappler forum, because I think it's about 3 years old, that it was to produce a blog tutorial on how to produce blogs. And basically that's what we've just done there, because that exact structure follows what you would typically find within any blog. You would have a parent, you would have images, you would have comments, you would have reactions. So that structure can be turned with a little bit of tweaking here and there, probably, to fit so many different areas. So what I do now with the sections that I'm about to release for the community web, that project I'm doing, is that I'm creating one page, which is the insert, edit, delete of the content. And each piece of content is simply flagged with a letter, as all I'm using, to say this refers to the local events section, this refers to the buy sell section. So we can use that same structure for every page within that list of things that we're going to do. So we only need one editing screen, we only need one delete screen, we only need one insert screen, and we just tag them to say which particular type of screen that is. And then obviously within the App Connect head, when we're calling our queries to show our data, we just send that letter that I'm using as a parameter to the query to say, I only want local event or attraction or jobs wanted records, and it will return all of those records to be processed. And then within the App Connect end, we can display it in different ways. So basically the same data structure sits behind, but we can lay out the business index in a, structurally a different way. We perhaps put the images in a swiper, where perhaps in a local history, it might be a gallery. Within the local attractions, we maybe have a masonry, or we might have forgotten the name of the thing where the pictures change all the time, slideshow. So what we do is we can make the front end of your web app look completely different to all of the other pages, but in actual fact, the data that's being fed in from the background is exactly the same for each page.
But it's not only the data, but the queries it's the same query, right?
It's the same query, yeah. Same query, you're just simply saying from your page, give me all of the data using this query, which refers to jobs wanted and offered, and it will return all of those to you as a data set, highly optimized with all those ability to be able to do the repeats, because each of those subtables is effectively an object. So you then can use that as a source of a repeating section within your web page. The next stage I'm going to do is to link that back to, if any of you have watched any of the course that I've done, I've been covering how to dynamically manage SEO, so that your SEO actually comes from a table as opposed to being within your head section of your page. And when I come back from my holiday, I'm just dropping in and I'm off on holiday for a week as from midnight tonight. I'm going to actually extend that query, and it's going to also pull in all of the SEO tags that you need for your page at the same time and populate your SEO as well.
That's a great video too, by the way, Brian. I learned a lot from that.
Thank you, Ben. Coming from you, I appreciate that.
Now, what you've shown us now is what I would call the read function. You've only queried the database. How do you go about creating, updating, deleting? Would you use the same sort of structure?
Yeah, be honest, Ben, I tend to still do the updates in the traditional way. So remember that all of those tables and subtables are tables in their own right. So you will start with creating that initial page data that you have in your table, this section here. And you would update that with a fairly standard form in the same way as you would do with any other page.
Yeah.
I would, for images, I tend to use the drop zone, and I would simply insert into the drop zone in the same way as you would any other standard table, but I'll also be stuffing the page ID from here into those records at the same time.
The reason I ask, Brian, is I'm in the process of creating a video to create a photo gallery, image gallery. And what I've done is I've just used the one update and delete. No, not the delete. The update and the read function, using the the demonstration that Theodore gave us, just handling both of the tables at the same time.
Yeah.
The create function is slightly different because of the manipulation of the uploaded images, and with the delete function, I think. Well, when you delete the main table, the cascade goes down to goes down to deleting the images for that gallery as well.
Yeah, that's probably something I should really have mentioned, that there is cascades within these that are added automatically, and not quite sure. Maybe this is another thing that's glitching in Wappler for me, because normally when you click on those tables, oh no, oh there we are. Let's see, we can actually set those cascades of update and delete. So we can do exactly as you said, Ben. You're absolutely right. We can set it so if you delete this parent record, then it cascades down to whatever actions you want to do. In this case, the delete will cascade. So if you take out that page content there, you're absolutely right in what you say. It will cascade down. It will take out all of the related comments and all of those related images down to each of the related reactions as well. Yeah.
Interesting stuff, isn't it?
It's, you know, when they first added it, because I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and it would thought, oh yeah, that looks fun. Not surely sure whether I'll really use it, until I actually did use it, and it was a wow moment for me. That you can, something so powerful can be done literally with a few mouse clicks and produce a query that would probably scare me to write by hand, to be honest. I would have broken it down into separate queries had I been doing it, and then
exactly.
built it on the front end of the page. This is far more powerful to be able to do it based on one complex but very simple to put together query.
That's a testimonial coming from you, Brian, because you are Navicat's best salesman that I've ever seen.
Yeah, hate to say it, you know what, Navicat has priced itself out of the market for me. I've actually stopped using. I've got an old copy which I fire up occasionally. However, I refuse to pay the huge amount of money that they're asking for it now. So I've migrated over to Heidi SQL, which is free. And that does basically the same job. Or I use SQL Workbench, which again is a free download from the MySQL website. I don't like spending money when I don't have to, Ben. So yeah, Mark, because I like going on holiday.
Yeah, don't we all? Now, while I've got you in front of an audience, can I impose upon you to do another meetup in the near future to present the repeat side on the front end to show how all this data comes out from?
Yeah, certainly will, with the caveat that I may have already released a spoiler in video form, because that's the next module that I actually have to write for my course that I'm doing, and I really don't want to sort of hold that back a month. But I'll be very happy to run through it again, because I mean this is a repeat of what I did with the joined subtables and multi-references video. I'll be happy again to talk people through it in terms of how to do it on the front end as well. And I might be able to integrate that bit of dragging in those SEO tables at the same time, just to show you the power of being able to do basically everything from one simple, and I say simple to put together data query.
That'd be awesome. I think our viewers would like to, if they watch the video first, they'd like to see, be able to talk to the creator of the video afterwards to ask questions. So I think that would be very interesting. So don't hold any videos up. Keep on your publishing schedule.
But I'll be very happy to come back and help out anytime you need something presented, Mark. Not a problem at all.
Sounds like a very good. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Brian English? Hyperbytes on the forum. All right, very good. Well, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today as we close out this excellent presentation by Brian English. I would like to invite the viewers that watched this, the Wapplers who watched this video. If you have a procedure that you would like to share with the community, if you have a website that you've created in Wappler that you'd like to show off and demonstrate to the community, we would love to have you be a presenter at a upcoming monthly meetup. Please reach out to Mark 1 on the forum, and I'd love to talk to you. Thank you again for joining us, everyone, and I hope you have everybody has a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care.